Hecha yashva vadad ha'ir rabati am ha'ita ke'almana. This is how the biblical book of Lamentations opens. How lonely sits the city. How lonely sits the city. The cultural capital of the world has become a place where people have been separated and are being separated from their loved ones. In the city of the Stonewall rebellions, the Dyke March organizers continue to miss opportunities for more thorough conversation and remain focused on purity tests. Some expectation that Zionism means the same thing to different people and that every person must choose a side. While I have never self-identified as a Dyke, my experience is that the Dyke March space has been sacred for my friends, has been sacred for dozens of years for many, many members of CBST, has been a nechemta, an antidote to feeling lonely in our city, an antidote, an opportunity, a space where no one needs to be validated by men, no one needs to be validated by police, and no one even needs to ask permission to do the simplest thing of just walking down the street in safety and power. Having to carry the burden of whether or not to show up and how to show up this year may feel very, very lonely. In the city where the UN's vote led to Ben-Gurion's proclamation of a Jewish state, flights have been canceled to the airport near Tel Aviv that bears his name. Many Jews who have favored Israel's violent campaign in Gaza are waking up and feeling abandoned by the leadership of the state whose mere essence we were raised to think made us so much safer in the world. As Tom Friedman wrote in the Times this week, I am focused right now on my own tribe. And if my own tribe does not resist this Israeli government's utter indifference to the number of civilians being killed in Gaza today, Jews everywhere will pay dearly. Maybe that is already beginning to happen. Many of us may feel abandoned. We may feel very lonely. Spaces that even just a few years ago may have seemed like the institutions that lifted each of us up in our uniqueness, made us feel safer, stronger, and prouder, might now be exhausting us, testing our patience, and creating unnecessary loneliness as they have made people feel invisible. We are living in a time when progressive social changes in our wider society that we thought our wider society has already accepted are being called into question at best and being utterly overturned or threatened to be utterly overturned in many, many ways. People are literally being told that they do not exist. And we are activating for social change. We are writing letters. We are giving people legal assistance. We are having one-on-one conversations. We are showing up to public demonstrations with hundreds of thousands of people. Change processes can range from the individual to the communal, from the most informal to the most official. But what happens when we find ourselves just struggling to breathe through the day without our anxiety escalating into full-blown panic? This week's Torah portion, Beha'alotecha, reveals our ancestors in the desert, in the wilderness, feeling overwhelmed. We imagine our years in Egypt punctuated by fresh vegetables and fruit, melons and leeks, onions, garlic, and cucumbers, as if we were just eating a plethora of those things there, because that sounds like what Egypt was about. Moses is so overwhelmed by the Israelites moaning and groaning that he considers quitting his own job as our leader. It's in the text. How many of you have ever wanted to walk away from something because it just felt like too much? How many of you have ever been told when something really messed up happened at work or in your family dynamic that you just need to have thicker skin? Building up protection is a legitimate form of resilience and resistance, but it is not enough. Allowing ourselves to actually feel what we feel, particularly when it's unpleasant, might be an even more important practice. Sometimes it seems easier in the interest of thick skin to compartmentalize, to put energy into not thinking about something rather than letting ourselves thinking about it. But one important dimension of pride is authenticity. Authenticity, showing up as our authentic selves as queer Jews and our closest friends, showing up as our authentic selves as queer Jews and our closest friends might mean that we ignore the gap between who we actually are and what some haters expect us to be. Now, if you're not finding yourself struggling to breathe at times, there is no harm in that. I envy you. And we need you to stand by someone else when they're struggling. Because not each of us experiences each slur, each threat, each piece of legislation, each piece of news the same way. The more we are each authentic, more we can ask for what we need, the more we can be useful for one another. The more we show up in that authenticity, the more we validate our own experiences and that of one another. And the more we do that, the more we can build strength from these experiences, even the most difficult ones. The more we can build strength in them rather than getting stuck in them. In March, I saw a friend I had not seen in over a year. We hugged, we exchanged the usual how are yous, and then we started musing about how often we have been responding with a conditional I'm well. Like, the world is a total bleep, 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 but otherwise I'm well. Or the country is descending into fascism and tyranny, but otherwise it was a great week. Now, I don't want to presume with the hundreds of you in the room and online who is feeling what, or how you are walking into this room tonight. But I suspect if I had asked you the question a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, you may have all, and then compositely all, had different kind of responses. I've noticed that in the best of times, sometimes people say, how's it going? Or sup? As a pleasantry, as if they really mean hello. So when someone responds with anything but I'm fine or cool or whatever, the asker is thrown off. Did they really want to know that I just spent a week sick at home? Did they really want to know that I had to spend days upon days this month trying to convince a member of my family to get checked into a residential treatment facility? That my landlord was threatening to evict me? I like the Jewish tradition of Baruch Hashem, the Muslim tradition of Alhamdulillah. Thanking God in response to how we are, not just because it connects us to something bigger, but because it slows us down. We don't immediately go right to, oh, fine, yeah, cool, it's all good. Maybe we get off of our autopilot and we actually pause and think, how am I actually? And take that invitation to respond a little more seriously. And maybe we leave that interaction feeling a little more connected. Maybe feeling a little more inspired, because even if we hear one another's hard story, the realness does something that just the I'm fine, let's move on does not do. And we get to thank God for that. We don't always have to commit to diminishing our joy in every moment because of our countrywide, worldwide context. It's okay to feel good. Did you hear that? It's okay to feel good. If you wake up and you catch yourself not feeling anxious, try to sit with that. Instead of getting anxious about not feeling anxious, which is often our immediate go-to. Try to accept the win. When you feel that, take the win. We need the win. The win feels good. The win gives us more background energy for the times that we actually do feel really lousy, feel really out of control, feel like we might, God forbid, be losing. Look, on the one hand, we can believe that if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. But on the other hand, you cannot show up as your best self if the only thing you're experiencing is outrage. So when we catch ourselves saying, actually, I did have a pretty okay day, and meaning it, don't let anyone take that away from you. You're going to need it. The person who hears you say it is going to need it. All of us are going to need it. There will be plenty of time to feel lousy. We don't have to talk ourselves into it. And when we show up for one another and say, how are you, and really, really mean it, we take the pride and authenticity and we expand it out even further. Because now we're talking about an authenticity that goes beyond ourselves to other people. Pride is not just about authenticity. Pride is about unity. Pride is about connection. Pride is about community. And pride is about communities. But I don't think we need to stop there. I learned this week that the term meh may have been popularized by The Simpsons starting in 1994. It may have originated in Yiddish. And there are variations with and boo and foo sounds, and there's a lot you can read online if you haven't before. But we don't always have to just stop with the I'm okay, with the meh piece. That might be a good start. But maybe, just maybe, we should take that further. I want us to carry around a latter-day version of 2 slips of paper, one in each pocket. One slip reads, the world is really hard. The world is really hard, and it's understandable to feel overwhelmed. I feel like a mess. I'm struggling to breathe. And in the other pocket, we get to carry a note that says, this month's Pride Parade is for me, and me alone, because you know what? Each of us deserves a Pride Parade for ourselves. Each of us should be able to experience the feeling of people coming together for something greater than the sum of its parts. Each of us should be able to sing and dance spontaneously, waltz and vogue and hora our way down Fifth Avenue, feel love in the air, and be agents of that love, spreading it out to others as we will do in a couple of weeks. We should get to feel moved by others. And we have a word for this in Jewish tradition. We call it nachas or nachat. I don't even know how you translate it. Maybe something like effervescent joy. How am I doing, Yael? Where'd Yael go? That's okay? You're into it? Okay, cool. Many of us probably know ourselves well enough to know the things that make our cups feel like they're running over with happiness. CBST's annual concert fundraiser this past Sunday. I know for me, I have still, 5 days later, not separated myself from feeling entirely overwhelmed in the best way by the music, by the words, by the stories that graced this experience right here in this sanctuary. And many of us are expecting to head over with CBST tomorrow to Bryant Park for the demonstration, knowing that the feeling of being together in that way will energize us, knowing that the openness to possibility that happens when people show up for us and we for them can generate the kind of joy that you can't just manufacture. If you haven't asked yourself the question of what brings you that kind of joy, Not just the Baruch Hashem, meh, I'm okay moments, but the Baruch Hashem, wow, I can't stop thinking about this experience I had Sunday afternoon moments. Give yourself an opportunity to ask yourself the question. And give yourself the opportunity to ask it of someone else. Someone you know, maybe at the Oneg tonight, someone you don't know. Try to think of what provides that sense of effervescent joy for you. You know, we say that everything is contained in the Torah if you turn it around and turn it around. And I want to suggest that if you need a head start on figuring out what can provide effervescent joy for you, that we as queer Jews have another symbol. We're surrounded by some of them. What if we imagine that everything that there is contained in the 8 stripes of Gilbert Baker's rainbow flags that we get to pass every time we walk into Shul? Pink is for sexuality. Where do we find beauty? What makes us feel good? What are our needs for connection, for sacred touch? And how can we show up for someone else in the way that makes them feel physically nurtured? How do we communicate with one another to bring and nurture holiness in our longest term relationships, in our fleeting encounters, and anything in between? Red is for life. Is there a new person in your life? A child, a new family member, a business colleague with whom you've had a shared experience that's energizing you? Is there someone that you have even loved and lost, and thoughts of them make you sad, but they also make you smile, and you feel so grateful for that relationship? Might that make you feel nachat and that sense of overwhelm? Orange is for healing. What are we thankful for in our bodies and our minds? How are we putting that to use in showing up for someone else? What do we need when it seems like our bodies and minds aren't functioning in the way we want them to? Yellow is for sun. Aldo Leopold famously taught that there are 2 spiritual dangers in not owning a farm. One is the danger of supposing that breakfast comes from the grocery store, and the other that heat comes from the furnace. While it might feel more abstract to trace humanity back to one primeval ancestor, tracing every aspect of our lives back to energy from the sun can increase our sense of interconnectedness. And if you don't mind me geeking out for another moment, I did wear this periodic table tie tonight. Green is for nature. The past few days, I've been obsessing about this song I was just introduced to. Maybe you know it. It's a song of the periodic table, song and video to the tune of Can Can, all 118 elements, complete with adorable pictures, rhymes, chorus, and all in under 3 minutes. Watching, listening, humming, trying to learn this song has been restoring my sense of wonder, even on some of the hardest days of this week. Turquoise is art. Maybe turquoise is magic. Maybe art is magical. I certainly felt that way at the concert, right? Because in a way, art takes us to another place, and magic can show us that what seems impossible can actually be possible right before our eyes. Indigo blue, serenity. What do we need? What does each of us need to feel balance in our lives? How can we take advantage of separating between Shabbat and the rest of the week so that Shabbat complements our experience of the other 6 days and launches us into every new week with harmony? And finally, violet, spirit. We are in this room together in person, online, and maybe for now, Dayenu, that is enough. We New Yorkers have a reputation, even in the best of times, of living in a very crowded city, but one that can feel very lonely for all of the ways in which we butt up against one another, rub up against one another. The Torah starts with the word Bereshit. What does this word answer? Does it answer when God created in the beginning, Bereshit? Or as Simcha Bunam says, maybe it answers how God created. God created the world how? In a state of beginning, a never completed state. One of our prayer books echoes this idea that if all of the energy that we put into the world were to pause for even a moment, the world would return to tohu vavohu, to utter chaos. Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg writes that every day creation is renewed. But let's change that from an observation is renewed, passive out there, to something a little more active. Every day we have the opportunity to be active partners to renew creation. Or more crassly, we expect the sun to rise and set for another 5 billion years. But what are we going to do about it? How are we going to show up in that light? God speaks the world into being. Let there be light. There was light. And God sees the light, really sees the light, and gives it a name. Day. Every morning, we have an opportunity to wake up and re-enter the world. We can re-enter the world and somehow convince ourselves that even when we are feeling good, we should focus on the tohu vavohu, on the other chaos. We should make ourselves anxious for not feeling anxious when we have those moments. Or we can wake up and say, Yehi or, let there be light. We can wake up every morning like God at creation and start with words that then and now can still create and really recreate worlds. Whether you believe that your let there be light is going to create light or not in that moment, it may not matter. Just saying the words is a practice. It's the first step to seeing each other and being seen by each other better than we were yesterday. We can wake up and say, let there be light every day. Light that is so mysterious that it existed before the stars, existed before electricity was harnessed. The light that every day activates our pineal gland, even before sunrise, to reset and refresh us. The light of creativity that allows us, as Rabbi Werber shared a few weeks ago, to approach the world not from a place of despair, but from a place of possibility. The light every day to see one another in the fullness of ourselves so that no person, no city ever has to sit in loneliness. The light every day that can be seen band by band on the spectrum, wavelength by rainbow's sacred wavelength, honoring the individuality of each constituent part and honoring the totality of all that light coming together. Let us this Pride Month wake up and thank God for creating us exactly who we are, not enslaved to any earthly power, proudly Jewish, and each one of us proudly in image of God. Happy Pride and Shabbat Shalom.